Okay, let's unpack this. $1 million.
Yeah,
It still sounds like, hitting the jackpot,
it
right?
really does. Yeah.
But here's something that really puts things in perspective. That kind of cash today might not even snag you a classic Porsche 918 Spider.
Wow.
And forget about owning the comic book where Batman first swooped into Gotham. It really makes you think about how the value of money changes.
Absolutely. Inflation's a big factor.
And that brings us to the big question we're diving into today, tailored just for you.
Uh-huh.
Can you actually afford a $1 million house?
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just daydreaming. We're looking at the real numbers
Mm-hmm.
and what recent information is telling us about this pretty significant financial decision.
It's a really important question to explore, especially when you consider the current housing landscape.
Right.
While the median home price across the nation was around, what, $419,200 at the end of 2024,
Yeah, something like that.
aiming for a $1 million home still represents a major financial commitment for most people.
For sure.
However, the crucial thing to understand right off the bat is that what that million buys and who can realistically afford it varies dramatically depending on where you're looking.
Absolutely. Location, 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 right.
Yeah.
To give you a sense of scale, recent data showed that only about 1.4% of counties in the U.S. had median home prices starting at $750,000 and climbing past a million.
Just 1.4%, that's tiny.
Yeah. And those areas tend to be concentrated on the west and east coasts. For a really striking example, consider Santa Clara County, California. We're talking Silicon Valley heartland.
Oh yeah, I bet that's high.
The median home price there was a staggering $1,517,190.
Wow, over 1.5 million for the median.
Exactly. So the mission we're on today is to really dig deep. What does it actually take, financially speaking, for you to realistically consider purchasing a $1 million home in today's market?
Exactly. And, one of the initial figures that often gets tossed around is an annual income of around $250,000. It's a potential starting point for affording a $1 million property, but that's truly just the beginning of the story.
Right. Not the whole picture.
Not at all. To really grasp affordability, we need to get into something called the debt-to-income ratio, or DTI.
DTI.
The
Okay.
key insight here is that lenders are looking closely at how much of your income is already tied up in debt before they'll approve a big mortgage like this.
Okay. DTI. It sounds a bit like financial jargon, but the core idea is pretty simple,
But
right?
that is, yeah.
It's essentially looking at how much of your monthly earnings is already committed to covering existing debts and potential housing costs.
Precisely. Think of it as a financial snapshot. It helps lenders assess your ability to manage another significant monthly payment in your mortgage.
Makes sense.
The formula to calculate it is straightforward. You add up all your monthly debt payments. That includes your anticipated mortgage payment, student loans, car loans, minimum credit card payments,
Okay, all of it.
all the regular stuff, and you divide that total by your total gross monthly income.
For taxes.
Right, gross.
Hmm.
Then you multiply by 100 to get a percentage.
So let's run through a quick example to make it really clear for everyone.
Good idea. Let's say someone brings in $120,000 a year before taxes. That translates to $10,000 in gross monthly income.
Okay.
If they have a $2,000 mortgage payment, maybe on a current place or an estimate for the new one,
Right.
plus a $300 student loan payment and a $500 car loan payment, their total monthly debt and housing costs add up to $2,800.
2,800, got it.
You then divide that $2,800 by their $10,000 gross monthly income, which gives you 0.28,
0.28.
or a DTI of 28%. Lenders pay close attention to this number because it gives them a clear indication of how much financial breathing room you'll have each month to handle your mortgage.
That makes perfect sense. Now, when we're talking about a $1 million home, we might be looking at a different type of mortgage compared to, say, a more typical house price, right?
Yes, definitely.
Something that goes beyond the standard conforming loan.
That's a really critical distinction to understand. A conforming loan is a mortgage that meets specific guidelines set by the Federal Housing Finance Agency, or FHFA.
Okay, FHFA.
These types of loans can then be purchased by government-sponsored entities like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Ah, okay.
For most of the U.S. in 2025, the standard conforming loan limit for a single-unit property is $806,500.
$806,500.
But remember those higher cost of living areas we mentioned earlier?
Yeah, California, East Coast.
In those places, that limit is significantly higher. It can reach $1,209,750.
Wow, over 1.2 million. So if you're setting your sights on a $1 million house,
Yeah.
depending on how much you're putting down,
Exactly. The down payment is key here.
you might need a mortgage that actually exceeds these conforming loan limits. And that's where the term jumbo loan comes into play.
Exactly. Jumbo loans. They're for mortgage amounts greater than those conforming limits. And they typically come with more stringent qualification requirements.
Stricter rules. Like
Good.
what?
Well, we're talking about needing better credit scores, potentially in the 700 to 720 FICO range.
Okay, 700, 720, that's pretty good credit.
It is. Compare that to maybe the 620 or so that might be acceptable for some conforming loans.
Big difference.
So if you're aiming for that $1 million mark and maybe don't have a massive down payment, especially if you're not in one of those high-cost areas,
Right.
you need to be prepared for significantly stricter financial scrutiny. That's a crucial insight for anyone seriously considering this.
Wow. Yeah, that's a considerable jump in the credit score expectation.
Yeah.
What else is typically different with a jumbo loan?
You'll generally need to make a larger down payment. While you might get a conforming loan with as little as, say, 5% or even 3% if you're a first-time buyer,
Right.
for a jumbo loan, lenders usually want to see at least 10% down, and some might even require up to like 30%.
10 to 30% down, okay.
They also typically prefer to see a lower DTI, ideally 36% or lower.
Lower than maybe what they'd accept for a smaller loan.
Potentially, yes. Compared to the maybe higher DTIs, some lenders might accept for smaller mortgage amounts.
Yep.
So having less overall debt relative to your income becomes even more important. Makes sense. What other financial boxes do you usually need to check for a jumbo?
Cash reserves. Lenders want to see significant cash reserves.
Like money in the bank.
Exactly. Liquid assets. You might need to demonstrate that you have enough money saved to cover potentially up to 12 months of your total loan payment.
12 months. Wow.
Yeah, it acts as a safeguard for them, in case you face unexpected financial challenges.
Okay. Anything else?
You'll also very likely have to go through a second appraisal of the property.
To make sure it's worth the loan amount.
Precisely. Ensure its value supports the loan amount. And interest rates on jumbo loans can sometimes be a bit higher than those on conforming mortgages.
So maybe a slightly higher rate too.
It's possible. Oh, and it's also worth noting, if your down payment is less than 20%, lenders typically require private mortgage insurance or PMI.
PMI, another monthly cost.
Yeah. Exactly. Which adds another monthly cost to your housing payment. So while it's not a given that a $1 million home will require a jumbo loan, especially with a larger down payment or in a high-limit area, it's definitely a strong possibility to be aware of and prepare for.
All right, so we've covered the mechanics, conforming versus jumbo DTI. But are there any simpler rules of thumb that financial experts often use just to quickly gauge if someone can realistically afford a home at this price point?
Yes, there are indeed some helpful guidelines. Jacob Wood, he's a real estate broker with Coldwell Banker Warburg, suggests a general rule.
Okay.
You might be able to afford a home that costs around 3 to 4 times your annual income.
3 to 4 times income. So that $250,000 annual salary we mentioned earlier, that starts to look like a relevant benchmark in this context for a $1 million property.
It does. It aligns pretty well with that rule of thumb.
And he even provided a rough estimate for what the monthly mortgage payments might look like on that kind of loan amount, didn't he?
He did. He noted that an $800,000 mortgage, which, would be the loan amount if you put $200,000 down on a $1 million home.
Right, 20% down.
That roughly translates to a $5,000 monthly payment, just for principal and interest, mind you.
Okay, around $5,000 a month.
Of course, as we touched on earlier, the exact size of your down payment has a significant impact, not only on that monthly figure, but also on the total amount of interest you'll end up paying over the entire life of the loan.
Which really becomes clear when we look at some hypothetical scenarios using, like, a mortgage calculator.
Absolutely. Let's consider a $1 million home with a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. Let's say a 7% interest rate, just for example.
Okay, 7%. Pretty common these days, unfortunately.
Yeah. If you put down 20%, which is $200,000, you'd be financing $800,000.
Right.
Your estimated monthly payment for principal and interest would be around $5,322.
$5,322.
And over those 30 years, you would end up paying over $1.1 million in interest alone.
Oof. Over $1 million in interest on an $800K loan.
That's sobering.
It really is. Now, what if you put down less upfront, say 10%, which is $100,000?
Okay, 10% down. In that scenario, you'd be financing $900,000.
Right.
That estimated monthly payment for principal and interest jumps to roughly $5,988.
Almost $6,000 a month.
And your total interest paid over the 30 years climbs to approximately $1.25 million.
Wow. So an extra $100K down saves you what, like $140,000 in interest over the long haul?
Something like that, yeah. It really illustrates how putting down more at the start can save you a substantial amount in the long run.
That's a really eye-opening difference. So beyond just the overall purchase price and your annual income, the size of your down payment is a major factor influencing affordability.
What about those other well-known financial rules, like the 28% rule? How does that fit in?
Right, the 28% rule provides another helpful benchmark. It states that your total monthly housing payment, which includes your mortgage principal and interest, property taxes, and homeowner's insurance, often called PTI.
PTI, got it.
That total payment should ideally be no more than 28% of your gross monthly income. Okay, 28% of gross. So if you're earning that $250,000 a year before taxes, that works out to about $20,833 in gross monthly income.
Exactly. Applying the 28% rule, your total housing costs, your PITI, should ideally stay below approximately $5,833 per month.
Okay, under $5,833. And our $800 K loan example was around $5,300 before taxes and insurance.
Right. So you'd need to factor those in to see if you fit under the 28% line. Taxes and insurance can add quite a bit depending on location.
Good point. And the 2836 rule builds on that by factoring in your other debts.
Exactly. The 2836 rule refines the picture further. It suggests your mortgage payment, PITI, should not exceed 28% of your gross monthly income.
Okay, same first part.
And importantly, all of your total monthly debt payments, including that mortgage, student loans, car loans, credit card minimums, should not exceed 36% of your gross monthly income.
36% total debt.
Right. So in our $250,000 salary example, with that $20,833 gross monthly income, the 36% limit is around $7,500 total for all debts.
Okay.
So if the estimated total monthly housing payment, PITI, is, say, around $5,833,
which was our 28% limit.
that leaves you with roughly $1,667 per month, $7,500 and $5,833 for all your other debt obligations, car payments, student loans, etc., to stay within that 36% overall DTI ratio.
So not a lot of room for other large debts if your housing costs are right at that 28% mark.
Precisely. These rules really help provide a more holistic view of affordability beyond just the price tag of the house.
These guidelines really help you get a clearer financial picture beyond just the initial sticker price. Now, we've talked a bit about national averages, but we've also touched on how location can drastically change the equation. Where does $1 million still feel like, buying a palace, and where is it just, well, another house on the market?
Yeah, this is where the concept of the luxury market becomes really relevant. According to Jacob Wood, again, on a national level recently, the entry point for homes in the top 5% to 10% of the highest prices was around $1.2 million.
Okay, so $1 million is still below the typical luxury threshold nationally.
Generally, yes. However, in a hyper-competitive market like Manhattan and New York City, that threshold jumps to a staggering $4 million.
$4 million just to enter the luxury market there.
That's what the source indicated for that period, yeah. So in many areas across the country, a $1 million home is definitely still considered a high-end, maybe even luxury property.
But clearly not so much in those extremely expensive urban centers. So what kind of property might you realistically expect to get for around $1 million in a place like Manhattan? Any examples?
Yeah, Andreas Eterna Sanjana, another experienced broker with Coldwell Banker Warburg, provided a great example in Manhattan's Upper West Side.
Okay.
Around the $1 million mark might get you a one-bedroom, one-bathroom condominium.
One bed, one bath for $1 million.
Yeah, maybe with some appealing architectural details, perhaps like a double-height ceiling, a loft space, exposed brickwork, often situated within a historic brownstone building close to Central Park.
Okay, so nice, desirable, but definitely not huge.
Exactly. It's certainly a comfortable and desirable living space, but it's a far cry from, say, a sprawling estate you might get elsewhere.
Right? A world away from the kind of square footage and amenities you might get for that same amount in many other parts of the United States. And there are even some counties where the median home value is so incredibly high that even affording the mortgage payments on a $1 million home would be a significant stretch for many high earners.
Absolutely. The latest data reveals several counties where the median home values exceed $1.4 million.
Over 1.4 median? Which ones?
These include highly sought-after areas such as Marin, San Mateo, and Santa Clara counties in California.
Okay, more California.
Nantucket County in Massachusetts, Teton County in Wyoming, and San Francisco County also in California.
Nantucket and Teton County, Wyoming. Interesting mix.
Yeah. In these exceptionally expensive markets, you could easily be looking at monthly mortgage payments well north of $8,000 just for a home priced at the median value.
$8,000 a month for the median house. Wow.
Yeah.
Let alone something approaching $1 million that the median's already higher.
Exactly.
Teton County, Wyoming, that one consistently appears on these lists of the most expensive places. What are the primary factors driving up housing prices there so dramatically? It's not a major city.
No, it's really a confluence of factors. Firstly, the area boasts, breathtaking natural beauty, unparalleled access to Grand Teton National Park, Jackson Hole Mountain Resort.
Right. Desirable location for outdoor enthusiasts.
Highly desirable for a certain segment of buyers, yeah.
Yeah.
But crucially, around 97% of the land in Teton County is owned or managed by the government.
97%.
Yeah. So that severely restricts the amount of private land available for residential development.
Supply and demand. Very limited supply.
Exactly. This fundamental scarcity of land, coupled with high demand, inevitably drives up property values and prices significantly.
It really underscores just how incredibly diverse the housing landscape is across the country. And as we mentioned earlier, those conforming loan limit maps from the FHFA, they can also serve as a helpful visual guide, right? To identify areas where housing costs tend to be higher.
They are indeed. The areas that qualify for those higher conforming loan limits, that $1.2 million figure we mentioned,
Yeah.
they are generally a direct reflection of the higher median home prices prevalent in those specific regions. It all connects.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, what's the most crucial takeaway for someone out there wondering if that $1 million home is a realistic possibility for them?
Well, I think the key message to remember is that while $1 million is still a substantial sum of money,
Definitely.
and it will afford you premium properties in the majority of housing markets across the country,
Yeah.
its purchasing power is considerably diminished in those very expensive urban centers and desirable resort areas like Teton County.
Yeah, it buys less there.
Affordability ultimately boils down to a combination of key financial factors working in your favor. We talked about them. The size of your down payment,
Huge factor.
whether you'll need to factor in the added cost of private mortgage insurance, the interest rate you're able to secure on your loan,
Which can vary.
and the extent of your other existing debt obligations that DTI again.
Well, an annual income in the neighborhood of $250,000 puts you in a much stronger position to seriously consider a home in this price range.
But helps, yeah.
It's absolutely essential to thoroughly analyze your own unique financial situation and run the numbers based on your specific circumstances. Don't just rely on rules of thumb.
Good advice. And if that $1 million figure feels out of reach for you right now, it's important to remember that it doesn't necessarily mean the dream of homeownership is over, right?
That's absolutely right. Rob McGibney from KB Home offers a really valuable long-term perspective. He advises viewing homeownership as a long-term investment.
A marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. And the most important thing is to buy smart. Even if your initial budget doesn't perfectly align with your ultimate dream home, whether that's a $1 million property or something else entirely.
Buy smart. I like that. So going beyond just the immediate calculations and financial ratios we've discussed today, here's maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to consider.
What does buying smart truly look like in the context of your individual long-term financial goals and your desired lifestyle?
Good question.
It's not solely about whether you can manage the monthly payments today, but about the broader implications of homeownership and how it strategically fits into your future aspirations. Something to think about.